Get them cleaned. I keep telling you. Katia Marinova, how are you? Jennifer Faust, hello there. Summer in December, hello. So let's bring on. I mean, I must say first, we haven't got Michelle Lowe because she's having technical difficulties, and she may appear in the chat, but at the moment she's having trouble with microphones and cameras and all that stuff. So unfortunately, we haven't got Nora Batty. But we do have somebody here, and it is Ronnie Compo. Hello there, Ronnie. Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hello, Compo. How are you doing?
Managed to find the hat. Doing fine, Danny. Thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Let people know who you are, just in case there is somebody who's been living under a rock who has no idea who you are.
Yeah. Well, my name's Ronnie Lee. I've been a vegan for 49 years. I was one of the founders of the Animal Liberation Front. Been to jail a few times in connection with that. For many years I've been involved in various campaigns. My main focus at the moment is vegan outreach, but I've done pretty much everything to do with animal liberation, I suppose.
You certainly have, mate. You have got a very you could call it distinguished career, because it is distinguished, mate. You've done the so-called crime. You've done the so-called time, and you've come out the other side, and you're still reasonably sane after all that. And I don't know how you did it, mate. It is an accomplishment. But we're going to talk about the early days in a little while, about all this, and because it's very apt. Because what we're going to talk about today is growing up in the 70s, growing up in the 80s, what it was like before internet, what it was like before mobile phones. We had carrier pigeons, and that was it. So we're going to talk all about that. And I want all you in the chat to think about, those of you who are old enough to think about some of the things that happened in the 70s, your bikes, your music, the cars, the whole thing. Just let us know your thoughts, and I'll try and keep up with the comments. But we're missing someone here. We're missing that bloody posh one, that foggy fella. Do you remember him? Let's add him on. We've got Roger Foggy Yates here. Hello there, Roger.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the...
He's found his hat.
He's found his hat, yeah.
He's found a hat.
I'm a foggy hat.
I always knew you were a communist.
Yeah, this is no good in the fog, funny enough. Yeah, I'm Roger Yates. I've been a vegan since 1979. I joined the Hunt Saboteurs in 77, but there was nobody around, so I had to wait a couple of years before it all fell into place. And I always say that I never went through a vegetarian phase. So I went from flesh consumption to veganism really quickly, and I've always been very grateful for that. And so that's me. I'm working for this group now, Vegan Information Project, which is based in Dublin. But of course, we're not on the street at the moment. But we will. What's that saying? I'll be back. We'll be back.
We'll be back. I'll be back. Get to the chopper.
I'm going to take that off.
I think I will take this off. I'm bloody warm.
Yeah, it's too hot. Yeah.
It's too bloody hot. Yeah.
We need to be on the Yorkshire Dales to wear those things, don't we?
Yeah, too right you are. Right,
there we are.
Guys and gals, I'm going to sound like Jimmy bloody Savile now. What am I doing? That was 70s as well, but we won't go down that route.
No,
So
today... My sister knocked him out once, Danny. Jimmy Savile. Your
sister knocked Jimmy Savile out?
Yeah.
She didn't finish the job though, mate.
No, we used to live in a place called Otley, which is near Leeds, right? And there was...
Correct.
There was like a Wearside cafe, and she was going in and he was coming out. That's when he had black hair in those days before he was
yeah.
And she didn't know who he was, and he was coming out and she was going in, and she knocked him over.
Nice, I like it. It's a shame there wasn't a cliff. I mean, can you imagine all the bother and all the horrible things would have ended right there. It's a bit like the assassination of Hitler. If it just been done, oh my God, how much different the world would have been. My God.
Yeah,
But
she could have.
anyway,
She could have fixed it, couldn't she? Could have fixed it for lots of people.
Definitely.
I'm gonna keep tabs on your puns, Ronnie. That's one.
Well, listen.
A pun box.
Well, actually, the peer review, right? I want you to listen carefully now. Helen Hawley has sent me these. She's an artist and she does beautiful little pictures, and they're all these little sort of things. But if you notice, there's a particular colour to these, the yellow. Now, if you start going on, right, with yourself and start rambling on, you're going to get a yellow card, okay? And as soon as I put that yellow card up, I'm going to mute you. It's a bit like, when we're talking about the crook running, dragging them off. That's what I'm basically going to do to you, because I've been told don't let them ramble on because they've
Have you got a red card though?
No, I haven't got a red card. I can't send you off. I couldn't send you off. I couldn't do that. No, that's one thing I couldn't do. But anyway,
to the sin bin, can't you?
See, listen, right, I'm holding the card up, right. The pair of you, shut up for a second, please, right, because this is important. Now, just STFU, right? So, there is another reason I'm doing this stream as well, is because I want to raise a little bit of money. Oh, no, you're all saying again, no more money raising, but this charity and this fundraising that I want to do is because I saw Joey Carbstrong visit this place and I didn't realise how close it was to me. It's in Huddersfield and it's literally on my doorstep. And they're a sanctuary for my favourite animals. I have got favourites and they are pigs. And it's called Pigs in the Wood. And they basically let pigs just do and live the normal lives, and she's ace. We are going to do a little bit of a fundraiser. There's quite a few things in the pipeline, but I'm just going to post this here in the link, and you can click on that and you can join this donation scheme where some of your purchases send donations to Pigs in the Wood. You can super chat me. You can click on my PayPal me, which is in the description. But I would prefer if you guys went direct to Pigs in the Wood. You can sponsor pigs. You can adopt a pig. I would prefer you did that because then YouTube and PayPal don't take their little cut. I want everything to go to Pigs in the Wood. But I am fortunately have the owner of one of the managers. I'll find out what she is in a minute when I bring her on. But this is Jack, and she's come on and she's got a lovely little thing for us to auction off a little later. We're going to auction this off, but I want to bring Jack on just to give us a little update on it, and I want to play you a couple of videos. So I'll bring her on right now.
Hi there.
Hello, Jack.
Hi.
How are you? She's very, very nervous.
Yes.
She didn't want to do this. She's got a little doggy there. What's he called?
This is Poppy, one of my 3 rescued dogs. She's a Jack Russell.
Oh, sorry.
She, yeah. She's not offended. It's okay. But yeah, she's one of 3. I've got like an Irish Wolfhound cross and a rescued French Bulldog with a bit of a story. I rescued her, but we won't go into that right now. From a breeder. So yeah, I'm the founder of Pigs in the Wood. One of the founders, my partner Russell as well, is
Jack Russell.
Jack Russell, yeah. Connection.
Sorry, I'm putting you off. You should have expected this from us anyway.
Yeah. Most people don't get it. It's funny, but
you're the new Nora Batty, actually, by the way. So we'll be asking to see your wrinkled stockings a little later.
I've got them as well. Everything wrinkles at this age.
Speak for yourself.
So yeah, I'm one of the founders along with Russell, my partner. We got the woodland at an auction, and we managed to, he scratched his nose at the right time, and we got it. And for our 6 pigs, it was a bit excessive at the time for 6 pigs, but I had my views about what it could become. Russell had his views, and guess who won?
Your persuasive powers.
There are ways. And so yeah, the pigs that originally we had came from Cornwall. We had a small holding there, and we put them in the wood. We thought it was a better environment than what they had, and one by one we got contacted by people asking us to take on their pigs. And I kept thinking, well, what's another one? We've got all this land. And then we got inspected by DEFRA and the DEFRA vet and the council, and they wanted to put the clampers on the whole thing and wanted to stop us from using the wood as a sanctuary. So we had to appeal, and it went to Bristol, and they overturned it. So we secured the wood for the pigs and was able to build the shelters. So that's how it started, basically. Yeah, with
So
6 little pigs.
So what brought you up to Huddersfield then?
Well, it was Russell's job, so yeah, we came down north, and plus I'm a Manchester lass.
Came down north.
Oh, sorry.
How dare you?
My mouth out.
There's rioting in the streets outside now. There's people heard that.
Up north, sorry.
Thank you.
Up north. Best place to be. Yeah. We didn't kind of fit in very well in Cornwall, particularly, having animals in a sanctuary, and it was a farming community. So, we clashed a little bit there. So, yeah, we started Pigs in the Wood, and gradually DEFRA came along and put the restrictions on. So we had to cap the numbers that we had at 20. Which is a bit ironic if you think about factory farm pigs and how many they cram in there. And we're only allowed 20 pigs in 10 acres of woodland.
Wow.
Which, in a way, is maybe not a bad thing, because I think we would have had more pigs and trees in there if I had it my way, which would have defeated the object of pigs having their own space and environment to roam around. So we've kind of got round that by rehoming pigs. So we have a rehoming page. And in the last few years, we've rehomed 130 pigs from various sources. COVID's a difficult time. It has a big impact on everything. So we go across the country, rehoming pigs, finding good homes for them. And yeah, I mean, a lot goes on behind the scenes. We've given talks, we've gone into colleges and schools, and we have groups of school kids come in, and it's all about educating people, informing them, getting them to see the pigs, how they are naturally, living naturally, getting to know them, understand them, and enable them to ask questions and give them a bit of information about where they've come from, what the background is like. So helping them to make those informed decisions, really.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, before we go any further, I'm going to play, you've sent me a few videos up of time with Pigs in the Wood. I'm going to share it now. So if you can just mute, guys, and then I'll do it for you. I'll mute. Yeah, Ronnie's muted. I'll play the video so you can see what a wonderful sort of sanctuary this is. One second. That's the one. There we go. Can we all see that? Oh, if there's no sound, I've cocked up. Sorry about that. Damn. It's all right. I'll put the sound on the next one. Oh, there was no sound on that, but never mind. Let's try again. Let's put this other one on. But don't they look lovely when they're just like in the natural state? It's just like, right, share audio. There we go, Dan. Let's just get this right. Have we got sound there now? Yeah. See, aren't they lovely? Aren't they lovely? Right, you can unmute now, guys. I mean, when we as vegans see pigs, we see them in the backs of wagons full of shit with scratches and gouges all over them and spray paint on them, and it's just such a joy to see an animal live in its natural state. It's so heartwarming. It's unreal, isn't it? It's a completely different animal. There's no fear in their eyes. You can see love in their eyes. What do you think, guys?
They've got bad table manners, though, haven't they?
Well, I don't know, mate. I've better table manners than me, to be honest.
I mean, get me a Jemmy Dodger and my table manners go out the window, mate. They're gone.
I got a question for Jack. How many millions of times have people asked you about the pigs at night time, whether that means you've got pigs in blankets?
Well, none actually. I don't think anyone's come up with that.
Sophisticated jokes again from Roger Yates. Oh my God.
We did do a campaign about pigs in blankets, though. We've had a picture of some of ours in blankets saying this is what a pig in blankets should look like. And we don't normally pamper the pigs like that, just to let everybody know. But it started because we did a fundraiser for items that we needed. And an 8-year-old girl had saved all the birthday money to donate to us. And so we showed her the video to show us using the items that she'd purchased. So that's how it came about. Needless to say, the pigs did love it. As you can see, they're very chilled out, as they were when we had a windfall of acorns and they all got high and stoned on acorns because we ate so many of them. But I mean, they were really stoned. they were on their backs with the legs up in their air, but they made them feel quite sick, but they were addicted to them, so they kept eating them, and we had a lot of stone pigs around the wood. It's quite funny to see, but that normally they're left to roam about where they want to go, behave naturally, root around, digging for roots, rolling in mud to cool down if they get too hot, and just do what they want to do, really, and be free. So it's just showing, letting people see how they are, because give an animal choices and opportunities, and you'll see them behave very differently to what we're perceived that animals should behave. They are very intelligent. They instinctively know what to eat and what they can't eat. They've got the mentality of a 3-4-year-old child. They're very fussy with food, contrary to belief. They don't like mushrooms. So I used to wonder, how on earth do you get a truffle off a pig? Do you have to give it a digestive biscuit and wrestle with it?
Yeah.
But they're rooting for the roots around the tree, and they find the truffles around the roots. They don't like dark green veg, don't hate sprouts, and a lot of stuff they don't like. So given choices, they will choose what they want to eat. But unfortunately, not many animals have that choice, so it's just letting people see them and the opportunity to have that hands-on approach as well and learn about them.
Oh, we're looking at that. Listen, I just want to mention Tyke here, because Tyke has donated £25 last week. I hope it was Tyke anyway. Yes, guys, we are looking to get a few donations, because I'd like to talk about that as well, Jack, because you do rely on donations and charity, but you do, however, put on events as well to try and raise money yourselves. You don't just sit back and wait for donations to roll in, of course.
Yeah, we're solely reliant on donations to help fund the pigs in the wood. We're trying to improve the area for them and the shelters, because they're prone to arthritis and rheumatism and all sorts of ailments that we get. So we want to make the shelters nice and dry and windproof for them and secure. So we're trying to raise money for that. We've got average vet bills around £1,000 a month at the moment. They've had a serious series of ailments, UTIs as well. And so it's ongoing costs, really. Sometimes we have to contribute towards the cost of moving pigs to different areas.
Yeah.
And we're supporting Rescue in the Wood that have just started, part of kind of amalgamated with Pigs in the Wood, and they've just rescued 3 baby calves as well that would have been shot. It's been part of a big rescue, involves 7 sanctuaries organised by Brinsley. In total, they've rescued 20 calves from a farm. So we're involved with other sanctuaries, and we go out and we give talks and things like that. So we're starting a fundraising page, but everything helps and help us to grow, to reach out more to different groups of people, to have an education room where children can come and learn, and throughout the winter as well. So and electricity would be great. So there's lots to raise for.
I know some traveller friends who could get you hooked up to the electricity for free, but I don't know whether you want to go down that route, and I don't know whether I should have said that on this stream. There is a question here. There is a question here from Level Joy. She says, "Is your Amazon wish list still up to date for the sanctuary? Because I think she's considering maybe getting you a purchase. Have you looked at that recently, or have you just let it?"
Yeah, we've kind of. I think we've got most of the items now. I think Chrissy, who's been doing that.
Has he updated it then? I mean, you wouldn't want a duplicate sort of purchase from someone.
It needs updating, to be
Right.
honest.
So
We need
people
to
shouldn't
do that.
really. People, sorry to interrupt, but so I'm just trying to get it out there that they shouldn't really go on the Amazon list at the moment. So you've updated it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, guys, yes, it was Tyke who he's sent £25. So thank you for that, Tyke. It's
Thank
really
you,
generous
Tyke.
of you.
Much appreciated.
What Jack has got for us is some VIP tickets for Pigs in the Wood to use within reason whenever you want. It's 2 tickets. Do you want to explain what's in this package for the people out there, Jack?
Okay. So VIP ticket involves a person obviously bringing a friend, or not obviously, but it could be one person, bringing a friend and maybe children if it's a family. So what they'll get is a personalised tour around the woods, no other visitors there, to meet the pigs, get to know them all, and then an afternoon tea in the middle of the woods at Jen's Cafe, where we hold the pig gig. Bit of a plug there. And then
what's the pig gig? What's the pig gig?
Oh, as you mentioned it, I just have it here.
Oh, that's a surprise.
So our pig gig, we've got a lineup of bands. It's a weekend event, and the dates are on there.
31st of July and the 1st of August. So the last day in July.
Yeah.
The last day in July.
The pigs will be around, mingling in with everybody. There'll be a bar with draft beer, real ale. There'll be food provided by the street kitchen. There'll be a merchandise stall, picnic tables where people can bring their own stuff as well. So it's a good 2 days of fun and chilling out in the wood with the pigs. They can be entertaining. I mean, they like to pinch your food, but they're not generally well behaved when they're there. So yeah, that's something that we're planning for, and hopefully, yeah, we'll raise enough funds to do the renovations and what we want to do to make it a better place.
Well, I can drive a 360 excavator up to 10 ton. That's what I used to do. So if you ever need an excavator driver, I'll do that for nothing for you anytime.
That's very kind. Thank you.
I can also drive trucks and tippers. So yeah, I can do all the machinery stuff, all the man stuff.
Great.
Because it's only men. It's only men who can drive diggers and trucks, of course.
Well,
but anyway,
boys' toys, I think.
Look at Roger's face. So this VIP ticket, what's it worth?
So you get the tour around the wood, a personalised tour around the wood, get to meet all the pigs. You get an afternoon tea in the middle of the wood at Jen's, where we hold the pig gig. So it'd be cream tea, vegan, of course. And then you'll be given, or you can choose an adoption certificate, a pig of your choice that you'd like to adopt. So you care for that pig or help to care for that pig for a year. So you can come and visit as much as you want. And you get some merchandise. So you can have a tote bag or a T-shirt. I'm wearing one here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
sorry.
We can see it. It's all right.
Oh, yeah, so that's one of the T-shirts there.
We are free!
We are free! Yeah, that's Wilbur making his bed on there. So we've got a range of Anarchy T-shirts, kind of Sex Pistols styly, Andy Warhol, Banksy style.
Very apt for this stream, very apt. Yeah,
all messages from the pigs. We are free, we love life, that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
So they've been designed by Drink Me Designs. Kate, sorry. No, I don't think it's. Sorry. Drink Me Designs, and Kate's the designer for that. And so there'll be merchandise there, and yeah, so they'll get a T-shirt or a tote bag, an adoption certificate, and an afternoon tea, and a tour of the wood.
Okay, so what do you reckon's like a minimum starting price for our auction? Say, give us an idea.
We've sold these tickets before for around £50.
Woo! For the pair, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so should we
That's
start?
the starting price, yeah.
Okay.
They've gone up to 300, I have to say. We have sold them two when we did a vegan comedy night in Leeds. We sold two for £300 each. But, you know, we appreciate whatever we get because it all goes towards the cause. So, you know, don't feel you have to go up to that amount.
Right, so let me tell you what I'm going to do, guys. So firstly, if you contribute directly to Pigs in the Wood, let me know what you've donated. I'm not bothered if it's only a £5 or a couple of quid. I'm not bothered. Just let me know that you've donated. I just want to see some action going on. If you want to bid on the tickets, right, so the highest bid wins by the end of the stream. So if you want to put a bid on, put ticket and then put your bid, okay? And then if it doesn't get beat by the time we say bye-bye, you've got the tickets. Okay, guys? You can use these tickets anytime within reason. When I say within reason, you can go in 8 months' time. You can go next year, but you just let them know that you want to come on a particular date, and you will get the prize. If you've got children and you're a couple, the children come free anyway. So it's a beautiful gift and it's a beautiful day out. It's worth it. Huddersfield is a beautiful part of the country. You've got the moors, you've got big dams and like, oh, it's beautiful. You've got wild birds.
Holmfirth. Last of the summer wine.
Last of the summer wine country is close by as well. Definitely. Yeah. So I'm going to be watching the chat. So put your bids in, guys, in the chat. Oh, hang on a minute. I donated 50 big ones to Pigs in the Wood via PayPal. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. That is so appreciated.
That's so kind.
Well, if nobody bids on the tickets, Michelle, we'll give you them. But I'm sure people are going to start bidding on them because that's a superb prize. Well, listen, Jack. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome to stay on if you wish to. You know the safe word, but it's completely it's completely up to you if you want to stay or go. If you want me to drop you off now, I will, and you can sit back and relax and watch the stream and join in with the chat. Muddy Paws donated 20 quid.
Oh, thank you. So kind.
Muddy Paws, yeah.
Thank you.
So good. Oh, someone's saying Emmerdale and Heartbeat Country as well. Yeah. Michelle's an absolute unit. Of course she is. Of course she is. She's Hong Kong Fooey. Right. Okay. So, Roger Dodger. How old were you in 1975?
Where was I?
How old was you in 1975?
Oh, I don't know. I was born in 1957. So what's that?
You're the academic, mate. For God's sake.
Yeah. But
what is that?
Why do you think I went to Georgia?
It works out at 63, Roger.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I was 16.
Oh, nice.
Then, yeah, 16.
67. So that's. You were 25, were you? Were you 25?
Yeah, I was working. I opened a cinema in 1975, actually.
You opened
a cinema.
A cinema?
Yeah.
How did you manage that?
Well, my mother was a bingo manager, and she started off with kind of cine bingo at the time it was called. So part of the week it was cinema, part of the week it was bingo. Then there was a split again, and the cinemas kind of started to do well on their own. So the bingo clubs and the cinemas split, and I became a projectionist. My mum became a very successful bingo manager, which meant that she got moved around a lot. And so we ended up in a place called Spondon, I think it was. And it's between Derby and Nottingham. So she was working in the bingo club in Nottingham. I was working in Derby, or near Derby, Chaddersden. And then my mum got a promotion somewhere else for Ladbrokes. And she wanted to go down south. And I said I didn't want to go. And so she left me. and I think I was about 16, 17. And so I'm in that weird situation where my family left me rather than I left them. And then two of the directors from Labrooks that I was working for decided to open a cinema in Kirby near Liverpool.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They asked me to be the chief projectionist, so I went there. So Kirby, Liverpool.
Bit of a rough area, Kirby, as well, weren't it?
It had a reputation. Yeah, it did, yeah.
Yeah, it still has got a reputation, mate. It still has.
Yeah, reputation.
It got worse when Roger went there.
Well, the weird thing was I had a flat inside, right? And they also had they had a restaurant in the bingo club because it was like an entertainment center. And there was one time when I didn't go out of the place for 3 months. I hadn't realized. And it was the time when Ian Callaghan took over from Wilson as a Labour leader. And I didn't even know. So I was really kind of like, dedicated to the job kind of thing.
Yeah, it's crazy times. What about you, Ronaldo? You were just a bit of a kid in 1975, weren't you? Were you?
I was in 1975. I was 24.
24.
And 1975, I was 24. I was in jail for most of 1975. I got sent to jail. I think in March 75. I got 3 years in prison for ALF activity. Well, the ALF was known as the Band Mercy then, and it was for various attacks on places. We tried to destroy a laboratory that was being built. We destroyed some boats used for seal hunting, various vehicles used by people that bred animals for experiments. Their vehicles were an easy target. We used to go and damage and destroy them. But a couple of us had actually got caught, and we ended up being sentenced to 3 years. So I was in prison for a year. So March 75, I got put in jail.
I mean, the 1970s, the prisons were a completely different thing then. It was punishment, weren't it? You didn't have toilets. You had bowls to do your wee and poo-poos in.
Yeah,
you had to slop out every morning. Yeah,
you had a potty or a bucket. You were lucky if you got a bucket.
And the prison guards wore like peaked caps and black uniforms, and they looked like police, and it was a completely...
They came from, in those days, like nearly all the prison officers, or screws as we called them, they were either retired police officers or retired army people. Now, like kind of any person can go and be a prison officer, but in those days it was exclusively like people that had been in sort of those two services. So they were kind of very militaristic in their attitude, and I don't know whether it's worse. I mean, now you see the stuff on the telly about prisons. I kind of think it's got worse in a way than it was. Drugs are much more. I mean, drugs were always a bit of a problem in prison, but it all seems to be a lot worse now. And it was. You had the first prison I was in Oxford, and it was one of these. If people remember, if anyone's watched Porridge, the comedy series with Ronnie Barker, they're exactly like that. That's filmed in like an old-fashioned prison, that what they called a local prison, and that was where you certainly started your sentence, in one of those prisons, and those were the ones where you had the cell. And I remember that there was the first cell I went in Oxford prison. I was lucky I had a foam mattress. The other guy in the cell with me, he was just an ordinary burglar, I think. He had a horsehair mattress, and he ran out of tobacco and he started smoking the horsehair. Yeah. And he said, I asked to have a horsehair mattress because it's really useful if you run out of tobacco. So I had to put up in smoke. And interesting enough, that prison now, they've turned into a hotel. It's a hotel now, but they've kept the trappings of the prison. So, the cells are, it's like they open the door and it looks like you're going in a cell, but it's actually like a luxury room now.
There is, there is quite a few there.
Yeah, they've done it. It's like a theme hotel. People can go and say they've been in prison for a week, and they haven't really. They've been in a luxury hotel.
Have you stayed there, Ronnie?
I'd kind of like to, in a way. I mean, I looked on their website, and I looked on their website. Bring back happy memories, wouldn't it? I looked on their website, and they've got, they do some you know, they've got some vegan stuff on the menu, so you never know. Yeah. Yeah,
so you heard it here first. Ronnie wants to go back to prison.
Go back to prison, yeah.
The Looney Tune. Looney Tune.
If you ask him where he was on any given year, Danny, he's liable to say I was in prison. But you mentioned the caps, right? The real nasty bastards. They used to cut a bit out of their cap, didn't they, Ronnie? So that meant the
slash peak.
The peak came down to make them look harder, wasn't it? Remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Didn't the main character out of Porridge have his cap like that? Mac something. What was he called? Mac.
Oh, the Scottish guy. Yeah.
McCoy. Was he called McCoy or something?
Mackay, yeah.
Mr. Mackay. Yeah. Because you did have, you know, there were prison officers that were kind of very much the equivalent of those. There was the Barraclough was the nice, more gentle one.
Yeah.
McCoy was, and then you had a kind of bumbling governor, and you know, like that. It's kind of quite a realistic program in many ways.
Yeah,
you know, Porridge, and I think that's why it was so funny. I mean, it's particularly funny if you've been in prison because you can see the connection with how it really was.
Fucking hilarious, mate! Can't wait.
yeah.
There was a lot of drugs in. There were a lot of drugs in the prisons that I was in, especially the semi-open, and because the thing is the screws used to encourage the smoking of weed, but they were heavy on other stuff, and they particularly didn't like it if anybody made some hooch, which is the homemade alcohol. They really don't like that.
But that brings out violence, though.
That's right, really? Yeah. And so they liked it when people had like weed parties and stuff because it would it calm everybody down. You know, Fulton.
Yeah. What did you get sent down for, Roger?
The same as Ronnie.
So what was the charge though? I'm just interested. What was the charge? So you wrecked stuff. What did you get done for vandalism?
I had 3 charges. One was conspiracy to cause arson, conspiracy to cause criminal damage, and conspiracy to incite others to cause criminal damage. So I was acquitted on the arson charge, and I was found guilty on the other 2.
And they gave you what?
4 years.
4 years. And how much did you serve for 4 years?
Just over 2, I think it was altogether.
So you're a good boy then.
Yeah, but I had a weird thing because I did an extra sentence in Liverpool as well, which was a bit weird. But that was mainly because of all the defendants, I think I was one of the only 1 or 2 that didn't have a previous record, which is very kind of important, you know, in terms of defence. And so they dragged me off to Liverpool while I was still on remand with Ronnie, and they fitted me up with this charge of smashing travel agent shop windows, which I didn't do. I wasn't even there. Oh. And there was a guy, an ex kind of Navy guy, and he gave evidence against me. And he said that he saw me in a car waiting while other people were smashing the window. So I don't know what the cops had on this guy, but he completely lied because. I wasn't there, and also the person driving the car was a woman. Although I suppose I had long hair in those days, but even so, he was obviously, because I had a big beard, you know, like on the you know, the picture that you used on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So So I mean,
the IRA offender. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like. Whatever.
But Roger told the judge that he looked like Batman, and he got extra time in prison, didn't he, Roger?
I got 14 days for contempt of court. That's
worth it though, isn't it? It's worth it.
Pissed off because this guy had lied. This naval guy lied, and I was just completely pissed off because like all this system was like against me, and nobody knew me, kind of thing. And I was kind of thinking, you know, you don't know me, and so I was in the dock, and I just thought, oh fuck this, and I just walked out of the dock into where I was with this prison guard. And this prison guard really panicked, you know, you can't do that, you got to go back. And I'm saying, look, no way, you know, and all this. And eventually I went back into the dock, and I said to the judge, you know, what's the matter with you? You don't know anything about me. You know, you sat there with your stupid little wig and your Batman cape. You don't know anything about me at all. and he gave me 14 days extra for that. And as a punishment, I was put in a cell with a trans woman. It was really interesting experience, that was.
I bet it was. I bet it was. I bet it was interesting. I mean, do you regret getting jailed? Sorry, Jack, you're going to say something?
I can't compete with this because I haven't been locked up, unfortunately. I wouldn't mind being locked up for something worthwhile. Yeah, I would be quite willing to do that. So on that note, I'm going to say pineapple juice.
I mean, that's. Do we regret?
Just one thing, Ronnie. Just before you go, listen, Jack. I know you want to go. Thank you for coming on and giving us a story. Thank you for sending me the videos. We will auction it off, and I will let you know. She does really want to go.
Well done, guys.
And
I'll carry on watching.
Please let me know how much you get through, because not everybody wants to sort of shout out what they've donated. Some people are really sort of like, they don't.
I will do. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jack. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh dear. Oh, has Ronnie frozen, or is he just having a fit? What's going on? Oh,
no, it's all right.
Oh.
Sometimes on these things, it's, if you don't want to be on it anymore, you just pretend you're frozen. Just keep still. And then the person gets rid of you there. It's a good tactic. That's not why I done it, though. It wasn't deliberate. Somebody asked a question about do we regret, I mean, I don't regret doing what I did to get put in prison. I regret, mistakes I made that ended up with me being put in jail, because you normally put in jail. Getting caught, but you normally get caught for a reason. You normally get caught because you made a mistake. You made some sort of mistake. You've overlooked something, and that's why you've been caught. And it's that I regret. I don't actually regret, being involved in, animal liberation and doing what I did.
Worth the 14 days with that Batman pun, mate. Yeah, I agree, mate. I mean, when you look at why you're doing something, I mean, you're not robbing your neighbour. You're not murdering your neighbour. You're not causing anybody loss or harm. All you're doing is affecting companies that are causing disgusting harm to animals, really. So I would say you're more a political prisoner than a criminal prisoner.
That's how the other cons used to treat us. I mean, the system wasn't allowed to, but the other cons did, because they knew that we. I mean, like, they used to ask us how much money we would get for a raid and this kind of stuff. And when we said that, we didn't get any, they were just they were very practical. The other cons, for example, they said, look, if you want to sort out a vivisector, you just grab them, tie them to a tree, get a baseball bat, and smash their hands up. They'll never do it again. And they were really kind of practical about it. And we were kind of going, you can't do that. And so it's kind of it's kind of weird, they were really kind of practical about things. So I mean, they offered me that if I could get 50 quid together, which was quite a lot back then, I suppose, that they could have a vivisector's legs broken.
And I suppose that could be very tempting, but again, it's like breaking the legs of a slaughterhouse worker. It's people who are dropped in that position by sheer chance, and I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Really, would that do any good for anybody to hit the guys who are involved with it? I mean, they obviously know what they're doing is not wrong, but in the eyes of the law, they were just doing the job, I suppose. But isn't that what the German guards said at Auschwitz? And it's very messy. It's very messy. I think a lot of it is what we'd like to see happen rather than what would happen.
Yeah, we dream about it. I think it's a tactical thing as well, because if like as an individual person, we're involved in what is a marathon, not a sprint. We're involved in a long struggle, and I think the thing is that, and you need to be able to stay in it long term and do stuff long term. And if you were to kind of carry out an act of violence like that, put in prison for a long time, then with that same amount of time, you could have done a lot more good. really. Because all right,
Definitely.
all right, like people say, well, a dead vivisector can't vivisect, and that's very true. But like, there's lots of others that are going to carry on doing it, and it's really what we actually need is is system change, is behaviour change. Through education and political action, that's the real solution. And in order to do that, you're better off you're better able to do that if you're at liberty, to be quite honest, rather than get a life sentence for killing a vivisector. So looking at, I don't care about if somebody killed a vivisector. I wouldn't care, to be quite honest. I've got no concern for those people that torture animals, but from a tactical point of view, it's probably not the best thing for a person to do who wants to do the best they can, for animal liberation.
I mean, what Debbie's saying is true as well. The ALF did have a policy against harming other animals or humans. So there is that. In fact, I made a statement from the dock, because when I got recaptured, because I went on the run, when I got recaptured, there'd been quite a few things that happened. Like, for example, there was a Semtex bomb that went off in the name of the ALF in Bristol, I think it was, Senate House, I think, in Bristol. And there was also allegedly some violence at a fur shop in London. And the fur people alleged that 3 guys went in, and one of them had a sawn-off shotgun and held them to bay, while the others went down into the basement and sprayed up all their coats and everything. And so I made a kind of statement about the policy of non-violence, and on the back of that, the special branch came to see me, and I wouldn't speak to them as usual, but they just said to me, look, with regard to this fur thing, we don't think it was the ALF, because we think it was a fraud thing, because they said that the fur shop, the owners were retiring, and they had loads and loads of what they called Hollywood style old, full length fur coats, which they couldn't sell. And so they thought it was a fraud thing. And they said, look, I know you won't speak to us, but which pile should we put it on? The fraud pile or the ALF pile? And the only word I said to them was the fraud pile. And they said, oh, thanks, that's what we wanted. That means we can hand it over. And he said, and for your information, we don't think the Bristol thing had anything to do with the ALF, because we're being asked to believe that the ALF had gone from incendiary devices based on 2 firelighters to Semtex, in a matter of months, and they didn't believe that was possible or would be done. So they didn't believe that either, and so it could have been something like Newbury Street, Anthony Newbury Street, or Alan Newbury Street. He actually got 9 months for planting a nail bomb on his own Land Rover, Danny.
Wow.
It's a pity it didn't go off, really, isn't it? That had been a double whammy for him.
He would have, yeah.
You see, I think the tactics, the tactics that the ALF adopted actually allowed the ALF to spread. If the ALF had used violence against people, it would never have spread like it did, because far fewer activists would be willing to do that. And so I think it kind of hit the right kind of level in terms of the type of action.
I mean, when we talk about it, Leon's put a little comment in. Would you agree that politics and government are the biggest criminals? I mean, I see the police as the biggest criminal gang in the world. And when you're trying to go up against the government and the police, you're up against a highly weaponized gang that work together. Because I've been a victim of corrupt police. I was put up for assaulting the police. I just so happened to snidely get 7 seconds of video, which saved my conviction. But I still lost out. It cost me £1,500 in solicitor's fees and forensically getting this 7-second video off my phone so it could be used in court and they wouldn't say it had been doctored. And I got £700 in cost back. So my innocence cost me £800 on a payday loan. So yeah, you're dealing with a big gang and you're better off just not engaging with them. But I think education is the biggest thing when it comes to police. I mean, Roger, do you think if you'd have been a little bit more educated on police matters, you may not have got into trouble for that thing you did get into trouble for that you didn't actually do, if you'd have kept stum? Because my biggest downfall is I talk when I go into the police, and it's a big no-no. because the police are very good at getting you to say things that incriminate yourself.
Oh, so, yeah, but I never said anything. And in fact, me and Ronnie went through you get these things called depositions, and we ended up with a big pile of documents, which are the depositions against all of us. And what they'd done for me is they made up 3 statements that I didn't make. And they then said that I refused to sign them. Well, I didn't refuse to sign them because they weren't there. But, it's like when they moved to the pace thing, which was when they started to record them, they first started to record them audio before they did the video thing. I never went through all of that. This was before that. But what they used to say then is that the prisoner confessed in the car, but then wouldn't repeat it on tape. So it was there again, this version of stitching you up. And that happened to me. Me and Ronnie went through my deposition to see whether we could work out that, the timings are all wrong and everything. But we couldn't do it. It was too complicated.
Yeah, it is. And they use a lot of language as well. They use a lot of legalese, which is meant to sort of fool us and make us not understand what they're talking about. Like policemen saying to you, "Do you understand?" means, "Do you stand under me?" And that's why they ask you that question. And there's a lot of sort of things go on. But listen, let's just change the tact a little bit, because the reason I'm saying what were you doing in 1975 is because it's sort of midway for us all. It's midway sort of in our teens, our childhood.
When I was 18, by the way.
When you was you was an elder. I was 8. You was 8. You've worked it out finally. But what I want to get to is that we didn't have any internet. We didn't have mobile phones. We had, for some reason, we all had dial-up phones in our hallways. We didn't have them put in our lounge areas where we were all sat anyway. We had to literally get up when we heard the phone ring and walk into the hall to answer the phone. I suppose it might have been for privacy things. But how did you guys organise and team up without all this technology? How did you get on? Because I'm sure there's lots of people in the chat want to know, how the hell did you organise without any tech?
No, it was easier for the LF to organise in that sense than the SABs. The SABs was harder because there was more people involved, and you would take a lot of people. But I mean, with the ALF, there was kind of very close knit cells that got used to working together, and so often they would just talk face to face anyway. They would meet up in that sense. So you wouldn't have a real problem with the ALF, because I mean that was one of the problems that Ronnie keeps talking about, in the sense that you used to get a very close knit cell that was really successful. They trusted each other, and they wouldn't allow anybody in, as it were, to get trained up. And so that was a problem in terms of the ALF kind of expanding, because you people would like to kind of go along and go, well, show us how it's done, kind of thing, but they didn't want to admit anybody in because they'd already. And now, of course, we know that there's so many cops infiltrating. It's probably a good job that they didn't really, because otherwise,
Because
I used to. Yeah, so I used to organise a SAD group from a payphone. I lived in a flat, and there was a payphone in the hall, and I used to organise the SAD group that I was involved in running, just from the payphone, just phoning everyone up on a Thursday evening and ask if they can come out on the Saturday. And that's kind of how it was done.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, or even when I got a little bit older, it was a case of going to the regular haunts where I knew everybody was hanging out. And of course, they'd move on. So some nights I could walk to the Sandhills, we called it, and I'd go there and they weren't there. Then I'd move over to the common, and then I'd move over to the park, then to the school heaters, because that's where we used to go when it was cold, and sit on the school heaters. And we could be going around in circles, missing each other all night. It was just luck that we all met up. But it was a tough time in those days for communication. But I mean, I don't look back at them with sort of. I enjoyed them. They were good. We were always out and about, and I think it created more creativity and more lateral thinking as well to be in those times, because at the moment, on the downside of the internet, is there's a lot of misinformation coming our way, So I mean, there were some misinformation things put out during your active times, Roger and Ronnie. Weren't there some? Haven't you got like a newspaper article from something acute, like giving you some notoriety?
That's when I moved to Ireland, and this guy from the Irish Mirror, he rang me, and he was really friendly, and he was saying, oh, you know, because I was working at the UCD as a sociologist then, and so we had a long chat, and he said, oh, it'll be out at the weekend. So I went down to the newspaper shop and saw that side of it. But then if you look at that side of it, that was the headline.
Terrorist in the classroom, firebomber teaches kids on animal rights. I was jailed, but I did nothing wrong.
Yeah, the funny thing about this, right, is that I saw that and I thought, oh no. So I went up to buy it, and I kind of I folded it and gave the guy it this way, and he only turned it over to scan it. And so I thought, oh no, you know, he's going to see that. Because inside you've got two pages, you know, of stuff, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But at least you were honest, mate. You weren't sort of like sneaking over to Ireland, changing your identity, and at least you were totally honest with them. Jesus, you know, it's like, wow.
I mean, from my point of view and from the system's point of view, I was kind of rehabilitated because I wasn't very academic when I went to prison. I was kind of like straight C's kind of person in terms of academia. And then, and so I got my education in prison because, you know, it was either kind of mailbags or education. So I plumped for education, and which was really good because part of the education was sociology, and in that you've got this idea of participant observer. And so I kind of saw myself towards the end of being a participant observer within the prison. So it was really kind of quite interesting towards the end because I was almost like studying the prison system, you know. But so when I got out, and I was then allowed straight into Bangor University in North Wales, although I was 2 weeks late because they had to have a special meeting of the senior staff to see whether I was a threat to the institution or not, and they argued that I wasn't, although there was like an animal house at the time where you walked past it and you could smell the mice and that, and they were worried about the security of that, but they kind of risked it, I suppose, and so they hired me, and so I went straight. I was released on a Friday, and I went straight into university on a Monday, so, and I think they did it that way not to give me any time to do anything, you know.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I look back, and I look back at. I mean, we're going to have a chat about like the 70s and 80s, and I'm going to put a few things to you about, you know, what you thought about. Terry Reagan's got a question here. Ronnie, did you ever manage to find that edition of the Malvern Gazette what involved that place in Colwall? Or forgot what its name called. I remember we went through lots of papers to look for the article. Was there an article on you somewhere, Ronnie?
It was a place. It was a place called Perrycroft Lodge in Worcestershire, South Worcestershire, that used to breed beagles for experiments. And there was an article. My wife Louise was very involved in protests outside there, and there was an article in the local paper about when they kind of the people that actually owned the land were trying to stop the protesters using the land to protest on, and there was a kind of sitting at the meeting of a group called the Conservators of the Land, and there was a big protest and stuff, and we were looking for a newspaper article about that, but we couldn't find. We looked all through a lot of the back issues of the papers, and we couldn't find it. But that's quite an amusing place because the ALF did a raid on this place that bred the beagles, and I went there with another guy, and normally we'd sneak in a place around the back, but all at the back of the place were people's houses and gardens, so we ended up going down, actually creeping down the drive of the place, creeping past the guy's house and going down to where the beagles were. And our aim was there's only two of us, our aim was to cause damage to their vehicles that they used to transport the animals to the laboratories. But all the beagles started barking. And the guy came out of his house, started shouting at the beagles to shut up. And the guy that was with me said, "Oh, we need to hide, and follow me." And I followed him. Next minute, I heard a splash, and I kind of heard him coughing and choking. And what happened? He'd fallen in the cesspit. There was a cesspit there, and he'd fallen in the cesspit. And he crawled out the cesspit. It's like some kind of monster coming out of the lagoon. And we couldn't go back up the drive. We couldn't go back the way we came because the guy was there shouting. He didn't know we were there because the dogs probably barked at lots of different things, and he was shouting for them to shut up. And we had to get back to the car across people's gardens. As we were going across people's gardens, we had to climb over someone's shed, and there was like a trail of slime all across this person's shed. Guy, and when we got to the car, because he was driving the car, it was his car. Got to the car, he stripped down to his underpants. I mean, he was absolutely stinking. It was awful in the car with him, and he kind of put all the wet, smelly clothes. I think he put them over the engine to dry them out. And we drove. There was a campsite nearby, and we went in this campsite. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and he went in the showers and washed in the showers and washed all his clothes. But like for all the rest of the time that I was with him, he still stank of shit. Couldn't get rid of it.
Was it just not like in your mind that you were sort of related him to the smell of shit, and he didn't actually smell, but it just the sight of him. Sort of...
It might have been like a kind of residual memory of like what.
Yeah,
like.
I think it might have been.
But thankfully, I mean, there were other ALF on the place, and I think in years to come, and beagles were rescued, and in the end, it actually closed. In the end, I think the RSPCA rehomed dogs from there in the end, and it's closed. It's now some kind of holiday place, because I went to look at it not so long ago, and it's a holiday place. So it's obviously got a much better use now than it used to have.
Okay, people, these tickets are still up for grabs. The VIP tickets, please put a bid in if you fancy them. Michelle's in line for them at the moment, so we need a bid of more than 50 quid. Otherwise, Michelle Lowe is going to get them. We don't want Nora Batty going over there. She's going to scare the pigs. So come on, people, for God's sake. So let's talk a little bit about none getting in trouble, going to court, getting done for things you haven't done for. Let's talk about you as guys during the time. I believe, Ronnie, you was in a punk band.
Well, yeah, I was in a punk band. It only lasted a couple of years, 1979, 1980. I mean, I'd already been in prison twice by then. And like all the other guys in the band, they'd either been, most of us had been in prison or were ALF activists or hunt saboteurs. It was totally like animal rights, animal liberation band. It was called Total Attack. And almost all our songs were about animal liberation. And they're on, if people have a look on YouTube, there's a guy on YouTube, Alex Punks, his name is Alex, ALEX, Punks, PUNX, on his channel. He's a Spanish friend of mine, and he's put our tracks up on there. The band was called Total Attack. Have a look and see.
Let's have a look, see if we can get it up.
Yeah.
Alex Punks, so it's PUNX.
PUNX, yeah. And it's got Total Attack, and there's 5 tracks on there.
Oh, right. Total Attack Demo, 1979. Shall I put that one up?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
That's the one. Right, hang on a minute. Just let me pause this. So, who was the vocalist on this?
It was me.
Really?
It was me. That's only because I can't play any musical instrument. That's why. So I ended up being the vocalist because that was all I could do, really.
Okay, let's mute you guys, and let's play this. Because it doesn't.
There I am. There you can see me in my cap.
Brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know something? I would have bought that.
Yeah, the best one, the very last track, because they're not. There's 5 tracks on there that are kind of all together. He's put them all together, and the last one is probably the most famous one, which is something called "Most People Are Morons," and we wrote that after Margaret Thatcher was elected. Margaret Thatcher was elected as Prime Minister in 1979, and we wrote that song as a in response to like people voting her in. And I think I've thought of that song after nearly every election or referendum since then, to be quite honest.
Sorry, I'm just typing in PayPal pigs. I'm just typing in about the bidding for tickets. You don't have to pay anything at the moment. All you want you to do is basically type bid and then put in your bid. And the highest bid at the end of the show will then just pay for the tickets via Pigs in the Wood PayPal, and I'll sort all that out for you. So, guys, so that's all you've got to do is type bid and put in your bid.
And bid now, or else Danny's going to play some more of our music. So if you don't want any more, bid. Spare yourself.
There's 13 more minutes of that yet, but I really enjoy it, Ronnie, because you know something, like the music, this is one of the subjects, is like the music, it was so apt for the time when punk hit. It was the Subhumans, yes, the Subhumans. All these bands, they just rocked from like 1978, the Sex Pistols and Buzzcocks, and there was was it Polystyrene? Was she a lead singer?
Yeah,
Polystyrene, yeah,
X-Ray Specs, and all these bands.
Terry said that Total Attack sounded like the Sex Pistols, but really Total Attack were authentic, like the Damned or even Chumbawamba. But I mean, the Sex Pistols were a kind of put together group. It was like punk bubblegum, really, you know. So that's why they took the piss out of their own fans, really, didn't they? In the end.
Definitely. Oh, we have a bid for 60 quid. Anyhow, your bid's on 60 quid. I'm looking for 60 quid now. I'm looking for 65 quid. 65 quid. Anybody want to bid 65 quid? Bring it on. Put it on now. Ding, 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 ding. Come on. Make some more.
Yeah, it need to be enough. But I remember I had a very dim view of punk, because when the punk scene hit, I was in prison. I was doing my second prison sentence.
And
yeah.
Well, fuck me. Ronnie was in prison.
I was in prison, yeah. Anyway, it was all in the paper. All these appalling people that they spit on their fans, you know, they fight and all that. And I thought, well, they sound disgraceful. They do, you know, and it kind of formed my attitude. And when I came out of prison, a friend of mine who was a founder member of the band, a lad called Gary Treadwell, I went round to see him, and he said, "Oh, you know, have you heard any of this punk music?" I said, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. That they're horrible. They are spitting on people and all that." And he said, "No, listen to some. Give it a chance." And he put on the Ramones. He put on the Ramones' first LP. And Sham 69. I went to see Sham 69.
Yeah,
I went to see them. I think they were supporting the Clash at the time. I went to see them. But anyway, he put on the Ramones, and it absolutely blew me away. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Like, you know, their first like Blitzkrieg Bop and what was it?
Yeah, Blitzkrieg Bop. Yeah.
Hey Daddy-O, I don't want to go down to the basement. There's something down there. That one. That was the first one on there. It was absolutely the whole thing. I thought it was brilliant, and I got really into punk. But I never got into the clothes. And a lot of my mates got into punk. Like Gary used to punk himself up. He had all the hairdo and the clothes and all that. And we used to go to these punk gigs, and they'd all be dressed in their punk gear, and I'd be there in my bomber jacket and my corduroy trousers, sat there like, and they were all people looking at me thinking I was at the wrong gig.
But that's how capitalism works. You know, the punks used to get a bin bag, right? And they would push their head through to the top, and then their arms through the side, and that'd be their shirt for the night, right? And then within about 4 months, Carnaby Street were selling tailored bin bags. So that's how capitalism works.
It's recuperation, as the situationists would call it. where revolutionary ideas integrated into the existing system, and the revolutionary aspect is taken out of it. And it's kind of happened with veganism, hasn't it? To be honest, as well.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there was a downside to the 70s and 80s. And I just want to play something to people who may not have been aware of this TV show. And it's quite shocking that this was on mainstream TV. But this was something else that at the time was causing...
This Love Thy Neighbour.
Yeah. I'm going to share it because I want people to see how entrenched attitudes were in that time. And people actually... This got lots of views. People thought this was hilarious. So I just want to play it to you guys, the younger ones.
Trigger warning, folks. Trigger warning.
Definitely trigger warning.
Off to get tickets for Saturday's match. Manchester United are down here at West Ham. You should be back soon.
Oh, well, I'd better be going.
You don't have to go because of Eddie. He don't mind you being here.
Bloody knick-knocks! Everywhere you turn, there's a knick-knock.
Oh, that's enough of that. So, yes, that's what we were dealing with at the time. It was total and utter in-your-face racism. It was absolutely disgusting. But as a child, as an 8-9-year-old child, this was being pushed at me, and this was normality, and this was black people were there to be, and I didn't get it. I had guys at my school who were black. I had Asian friends, and it was like, why are they being like this? It was awful.
Well, some of it though is supposed to be to expose the bigotry of the character. I mean, that guy was supposed to. It's a little bit like Alf Garnett. The only problem, because Johnny Spate wrote that, the only problem is that some of the audience didn't get it, and they identified with the bigot, and that's the kind of problem. It's a little bit like when Madonna did her feminist stuff, dressed in conical bras and this kind of stuff. It's kind of like you know, unless you kind of get the fact that there's a bit of a kind of, a play on the culture, a bit of culture jamming kind of thing, then people won't get it. So Alf Garnett, people actually liked Alf Garnett, but everybody was supposed to hate him. And so it's a little bit like that, Are You Being Served, when you had the very kind of camp character. I'm free. Yeah, that's right. And so again, you've got this thing. But funny enough, there's a series just starting on Virgin Media called Eating with the Enemy, and luckily, well, I mean, not luckily, but I'm in episode 6 of that. So it's like a documentary series. It's when you kind of have a meal with somebody who you're opposed to, and it was all social distance and everything. They were they're actually miles away from each other, and it was a woman dairy farmer. But in the first episode, there's a drag queen talking to a priest, and they were talking about people like Danny LaRue and everything, and they actually thought that those things actually did kind of change the culture in a kind of weird way. And people like David Bowie and stuff, dress in a dress. And so things move and change, but very slowly. And sometimes there's lots of contradictions, like Love Thy Neighbour.
I mean, even Love Thy Neighbour, he gave as good as he got though. The black character always got the upper hand. Whereas the more sort of devious stuff, like Starsky and Hutch, where the local drug dealer villain was always a black guy, Huggy Bear. It was always black guys portrayed as the bad guys in movies. They were always pimps, But yeah, like Love Thy Neighbour, it was a to-ing and fro-ing, and Rising Damp was another example where Rigsby was like what was he called? Alan. Was he called Alan in that? The black guy in that. And Alan used to just rhyme Wigsby up. He used to, because he was intelligent. He was an educated guy. and he used to like just play around with Rigsby and play around with his sort of his racism and his bigotry.
In real life, Rigsby was an appalling right wing bigot in real life.
Was he really? How do you know that?
The actor was, he was. Yeah, and he had tremendous. Who was the woman, the female character in that? Because she was very left wing, and she used to constantly row with him when they were making that program.
Yeah, she had a weird name, didn't it? Sound a bit French, wasn't it? Something.
Yeah, but they used to not get on. He was really right wing, so he was kind of the same in real life as he was on there, to be quite honest. But the black and white minstrels, I remember the black and white minstrels. I mean, that's like appalling, really. I mean, I used to hate it when I was young because I hated the music, and there was always something else I wanted to see on the other side. And my mum and dad insisted on watching the black and white minstrels, and that's really why I hated it as a youngster. But of course, there's another very strong reason to hate it as well.
I mean, Frances de la Tour.
That's de la Tour, yeah. She's left wing.
I did not get the black and white minstrels anyway. I thought it was weird in itself. I used to question. I said, why are those guys dressed up as black guys? I don't get it. Why did they have to do that to sing? I did not understand it. I mean, obviously there's a history to it, but I did not. It was spooky. It was really, really spooky and weird.
Yeah.
But also, we didn't have much of a choice in those days. We had 3 channels: BBC One, BBC Two, ITV.
It went off at 11 o'clock and didn't come on at
11 o'clock.
Yeah, they played the Queen. So, see, that's kind of why I think I hate the monarchy so much, because right when I was a really little kid, I think I remember it perhaps when there was only one channel, just BBC, and it ended at 11. And when you switched the telly off, you got the little dot disappearing. You got the little dot disappeared, you see. And they play the God Save the Queen right at the end. And on a very rare occasion, myself and my sister would be up that late. We weren't normally. And quite often it would coincide with my grandma being round, and we'd stay up late because she was round. And she used to force us to stand up. She used to go, come on, stand for the Queen. And we used to have to stand in front of the telly while they played the national anthem. And I think that scarred me. That scarred me now for why I got
they had the Queen at the end. But when I started, right, people used to stay and wait and watch the cast so they could stand for the Queen. And then over the years, less and less people did that as kind of attitudes kind of changed. And so nowadays, you know, it's like if you go to the cinema nowadays, not that you can, as soon as the first credits come up, everybody pisses off. Whereas people used to actually watch the credits, you know.
Yeah, years ago, I had a partner who was into amateur dramatics, and she was in a play, and myself and her dad. Her dad was called Dave. Like, I got on really well with him. He was like a real left wing guy, and we went to watch her in this play. Right, and before the play, I think it was before the play started, they played God Save the Queen, and everyone stood up, but me and Dave automatically stayed sitting. They stayed sitting, and we just stayed sat, and people were looking around at us, all, you know, giving us stares and that. And I said to him, I said, listen, Dave, I said, if anyone says anything, just tell them we're communists. And they didn't know I said anything.
You've got to stand up for the judge, you know. That's the word.
Stand for the. Well, once in court, you know, I was in the magistrate's court on one of my many court appearances in the magistrate's court, and the magistrate shouted at me. He said, "Mr. Lee, will you stand up in court?" But the thing was, I was already standing up. Standing up. He told me to stand up. I think he didn't think I was such a little. He probably thought I was a big bloke, you know, from the ALF. Oh, I remember that.
Right, this test card, right? For those who don't know, before your TV started in the morning. So on a Saturday morning, this would be what you saw when you turned on your TV till about 9 o'clock when children's TV started. And I used to sit there with my brother and wind him up. Must have been about 6-7 years old, and I used to sit there and go, "She's just moved." And our kid said, "No, she didn't." I said, "She's just moved. Honestly, I've just seen her hand move." And we sat there staring, waiting for her to move, and like, "I've just seen her eye move. And it was like, is this really entertainment? You know, it's just like,
I want to know who won the game of Noughts and Crosses. I do.
Yeah, we should.
I remember when that was black and white.
John Curtin's film, Ronnie. John Curtin's another old timer. John Curtin's film is called Living with the Enemy, and it is on YouTube. That is a fascinating documentary.
He actually didn't.
Sad. Very sad it is.
He didn't just eat with the enemy; he lived with the enemy. Did I don't know how he done that. I couldn't do that. Like something would happen.
The email went round, and they said, "Who wants to do this? This thing." And it was the very early days of the internet, and we were all saying, "You're going to get stitched up if you do that." And then, but John decided to do it. I don't know whether he regrets it or not, but it is a very sad kind of thing.
It was difficult. It's not a thing I'd want to do.
I've got a little compilation here. Sorry to interrupt, Ronnie, but this is the last video I'm gonna play. I promise. And it's a little compilation of 1970s ads, and it's a case of. Spot the sexist adverts, but you know what I mean. It's just amazing, some of the stuff, and it's also got some of the toys on. So I'm just gonna share the screen again and let you guys see it, because it's really interesting to see what was on offer during those times. Put the sound on. So.
Check.
Oh dear. Time for a little gamesmanship with new High Karate gamesman.
Your move.
New gamesman from High Karate. The man who plays to win.
The morning mist is as fine as Sunsilk hairspray, but not as lasting, because Sunsilk hairspray gently holds and holds your hair.
Easy with Morny, and Paul loves to help me. For Aunt Yvonne, we chose a pretty shaker of Morny luxury talc. It was Morny soaps for me. Natural fragrances like French fern, sandalwood, lily of the valley. He knows I love them. For Cousin Betty, it had to be Morny foam bath. It's nice and bubbly. Then we came to Susie. But she'd chosen for herself.
Morny, the natural choice for Christmas.
Fountain
when
pens.
Mr. Walter Schaefer started the Schaefer Pen Company in 1913, he insisted that we should make the finest writing instruments, regardless of cost. However, through ingenious design, we managed to make a special series. The Schaefer Triumph 444 range, from only £3 for the ball pen.
Look! I'm Hornby-side! Now I can really show you around.
Bernard Cribbins.
Look at this good job. It's amazing. Everything's so real. Good, eh?
We did.
Run out of petrol, love? You can talk to yourself round here.
Hornby, use your imagination.
I suppose you think that's funny.
Out of the future, Airfix bring you a new concept in toys. The world of the Micronauts. Toys like Microtron, with interchangeable parts. Not just one toy, but several. Microtron. Program him to be Galactic Warlord. Cosmic...
What the hell?
Master Robot. Interplanetary Rover. Mix and interchange Microtron with all the other toys in the world of the Micronauts. Permutations too many for the human mind to calculate.
From 99p. Bloody hell.
Hey, JR! How was Great Britain? Great, except they got no bubblegum there.
Oh, bubblegum. That's unreal.
I told him bubblegum's America's #1 bubblegum, because it's soft and juicy, and the flavor lasts this...
What fun! At least 3 seconds of fun there.
Two-part backlash. The backlash shuffle track jack, and the backlash smasheroonie net and tumble. It also helps with counters in the game of
classic.
The battle goes on.
Absolute classic. So yeah.
Hey Danny, do you remember that one? You know that you showed that high karate one. Do you remember that denim one with the real deep voice?
Yeah,
and he goes, for the men who don't have to try too hard.
It's something that smells horrible, is it? So that, like, gives other men a chance.
I don't know. You never got much chance for aftershave in prison, did you, Ronnie? So
no, but one kind of because I don't remember too many of those adverts because I was in prison for most of the 70s, or it seems like it.
Really?
Well, yeah, I had. Yes, surprise, surprise. But I remember one last memory I've got in prison is that all the prison officers seem to wear like a ton of aftershave. You'd always know when a prison officer had been down the corridor because there was this stink of aftershave for some reason. They had to plaster themselves in it. And it's kind of like this memory that I've got of prison, along with like the smell of cannabis, I suppose. The two combined together, it was like the smell of what a prison corridor was like.
It's crazy,
they had
isn't it?
a special aftershave, didn't they? Called horrible bastard or something. I think it was.
Yeah, yeah. But I had I mean, it probably sounds a bit sexist now. We had on my last prison sentence, they were introducing like women prison officers, and I was doing my iron, and I used to wash my own shirts because you could change your shirts at the laundry, but if I found a shirt that was like nice and comfortable, I'd keep it. So I didn't like the new shirts because they're all starchy and uncomfortable. So I'd get a nice old one, and I'd just keep it and wash it. But it was all wrinkly, so I'd have to get the iron. And I was out in the corridor ironing it, and this woman prison officer came along and says, "I'll do that for you." And she did me ironing for me, like iron my shirts for me. I should have said no, don't. But I thought, well, she'd probably do it better than me.
I tell you what, it is a dangerous sort of territory when you start talking about
it is, yeah. It kind of, but there's like another thing in our prison, that same prison, in the prison laundry, that they did the laundry for the prison I was in, but they also did laundry for a nearby women's prison, and the blokes that worked in the laundry had a roaring trade, like selling the soiled knickers to other prisoners. They used to sell. They did. They used to sell the women's knickers, the unwashed ones, to male prisoners.
Look at Danny's
like
face.
Tobacco, yeah, they did, yeah. And this one bloke, this one prisoner said to me, he said, I'm going to get myself a pair of knickers. I said, what do you want to do that for? He said, oh no, I'm going to get myself a pair of knickers. Like, so he went with this quarter ounce of tobacco to the laundry bloke, and I said to him, did you get the knickers? And he said, oh yeah, and he got these knickers, and they were like huge, these massive, huge, massive pair of knickers that he bought. He said, well, I've got my money's worth. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable.
That was the main currency, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like tobacco was. Yeah, tobacco was the main currency.
I went past the Spruce office once, and this guy was he had he had a chunk of cannabis in his hand, and he goes, "Do you reckon this is worth half an ounce, Gov?" And the guy goes, "No, it's not big enough. Knock it back." That's what I'm saying. They were very kind of supportive of the cons kind of smoking weed.
Of course, because I mean, who wants a riot on the hands? Who wants like angry, horrible people sort of.
They weren't allowed to say it, of course, but they were. Yeah.
It's true. That same prison that I was talking about, that they there was a shortage of cannabis. I think that one of the main people that normally smuggled it in failed to smuggle in, the quantity or something, and there was a shortage. And there was uproar. There was a guy I knew. He was the most placid guy you could ever think of. He's just always reading and everything. And he was on the cannabis. And I went to see him one day, like just after the shortage. He smashed his cell up. He'd gone mad, because he couldn't have his cannabis. And it did. It's very true. There did used to be aggro if the cannabis wasn't in there.
I mean, you're talking about men who are even women who are caged up, and they're not in the natural surroundings. Very much like the animals that we are trying to defend is like when people are in the natural surroundings with the normal freedoms, you don't act in a normal way. You don't think in a normal way. I mean, I've been in a few police cells overnight, and that was enough for me, mate. I could not imagine ever being locked up for the length of time you guys did. It would drive me insane. I really don't think I could adapt to it. But again, once you're in there, you've got no choice. You either suck it up or you go absolutely nuts, don't you? It's either or. But it isn't. You do feel like, and I'm sorry for the analogy, but you do feel like a caged animal. You do feel like that. You pace, you walk, you don't know what to do with yourself. You've got too much energy. You can't expel that energy. You know, it's not a nice position.
Funny you should say that though, Danny, because there was one time when they thought I'd gone on hunger strike, so they threw me in this. They threw me in this isolation cell. They took all my clothes and put me in something called a zoot suit, which is they kind of tie you into this zoot suit, and it was a completely bare cell. And they kind of did the old kind of the food would come in, through the door, and then they slam it again, and it was complete isolation. But I kind of comforted myself by thinking that I wasn't an other animal in a lab, for example. And so I thought that was, that even though I was in this situation, it's not as bad as what the other animals went through.
No, I think that's true. I think the thing is, what you do is, how I cope with it is like you create your own sort of protective bubble. And I think study is a really good thing. And Roger did that as well, of course. And kind of sort of isolate yourself from all that, all the drug scene and all the normal goings on in prison. I think what I did was two things really. I studied and I kept myself fit, basically, and just kind of, I was friendly to the other prisoners, but I didn't get involved in any of this stuff with the drugs or anything like that. I kept myself well away from that. I gave up, funny enough, I gave up smoking when I was in prison. I was on my last prison, so I was a smoker when I went in, and I actually gave up in prison, which in some ways is harder to do, and in some ways it is easier to do. And because I thought, well, I've got a 10-year sentence, how do I fight back against this? And I thought, well, one of the ways of fighting back is to get myself really healthy so I can kind of extend my life, and so I get back some of the years that they've taken from me. And that was like the way why I got myself really fit in there, and studied. I got a few A levels and stuff like that in there, and the other thing, and you didn't get as much money if you were on education, which is why a lot of guys didn't go on education, because they wanted as much money as they could to spend on tobacco. But because I wasn't a smoker, that didn't matter to me. So I was able to, spend time on education, which was obviously a much better environment than being in a prison workshop, just doing some sort of monotonous work in there.
It's interesting as well, because I used a drug called Zyban to try and stop smoking. And the reason they found Zyban as an anti-smoking drug was because it was a mild antidepressant that they used in prisons. And what they found was, and this was in American prisons, what they found was that all these inmates that had used this Zyban for a very light antidepressive, they gave up smoking. And what they realised was that when you took this drug over time, it sort of tickled that little sort of receptor that the tobacco tickled for your reward. So you were getting a constant sort of stream of this reward drug in your brain from these tablets, which was exactly the same as what nicotine did as well. So that's how they brought out Zyban from this use of an antidepressant in prisons. And it was really good, because when you picked up a cigarette and tried smoking it, you didn't get anything from it, because you're already getting rewarded from the drug that you sort of did it over time. It was that was one positive thing that came out of it. But
the thing about prison is you can only, they have a prison shop that they call for some reason they call it the canteen. And you get this canteen. Like once a week, and you go there. And usually, there was one prison I was at where you got the cash in your hand, but normally you don't get any money in your hand. It's all on paper, and they've got a record. You go in there. I mean, now it'd probably be on a computer, but in there they had a ledger, and they looked you up in the ledger and says, "Oh, right, you've got so much. You've earned so much money this week at work or whatever, and what do you want to spend it on?" And then you choose what you wanted in the canteen. And because you could go in only once a week, if you decided, right, I'm not going to buy any tobacco, right, and you kind of had the willpower not to buy any tobacco, you couldn't get any tobacco for another week. You might be able to scrounge your cigarette, the odd roll up of someone else, but
mattress.
you cut horsehair mattress, which you wouldn't do as a vegan anyway. But by that time, I mean, later on in my sentence, there were no horse. They'd phased them all out. They were all foam mattresses by then. So basically, it was kind of helped you give up because you just couldn't get a smoke.
Yeah.
If you you couldn't just go down the shop whenever you wanted.
So right, okay, we've been at it 1 hour 46 minutes now, guys. So there's a bid of 60 quid on the tickets somewhere in the chat. So if you want these tickets, guys, this VIP tickets for Pigs in the Wood, you've got to beat 60 quid. Just put in bid and put in your price, and we'll sort it out after. I just want to go through a little list I've got here and want to hear your thoughts on them. And we might as well start with cigarettes. What about cigarettes in the 70s and 80s? They were very cheap, weren't they? And I used to go and get cigarettes from my dad. My dad used to send me to the shop for his cigarettes. I think they were about 57p for 20. And he used to give me a quid. And he said, Dad, can I keep the change? And 9 times out of 10, he said, no, just go and get me my cigarettes, But what were your thoughts on cigarettes and the tobacco industry? We were marketed to by the cigarette companies. There were adverts. There were doctors advertising cigarettes. There were racing cars. You could smoke on planes, in cinemas. I seem to remember half the cinema, is this right, Roger? Half the cinema had ashtrays and half the cinema didn't. So if you sat on the left, you sat with the non-smokers.
At first, it was just all over, and then they tried to do the half and half. But of course, the smoke just drifted over, so it was totally ridiculous.
What about you, Ronnie?
Well, how I started smoking, because I started smoking like in my teens, and why it was because my dad used to smoke Claire's cigarettes, unfiltered Claire's, and he to do with his job, he had to go to the United States like a few times, and on the planes, not only did they allow you to smoke on the planes, they gave you cigarettes as a free gift for being on there, and he'd come with these giant size filter tip cigarettes that he'd be given on the airplane, and he wouldn't smoke them because he didn't like ones with filter tips, and he used to throw them in the cupboard. You see, so I started smoking them. And funny enough, I was about 14, and myself and a friend of mine had this little round. It was connected with a local football club where we sold these sort of bingo tickets for a local football club, and we got paid a little bit of money. And what we used to do after we'd done this, we used to go back to where I lived, and he was a big kid. We were 14. I probably looked about 12. He looked 18 because he was a big kid. He used to go in the off license, get lager. We used to go back to my house, go in like the dining room, sit at the table, play poker, and gamble with the money that we got from doing this round, and smoke these cigarettes out of the cupboard and drink lager. And my mum and dad didn't mind. They didn't care. They thought, he's safe, he's at home and all that. And they weren't bothered. They kind of let me do it. And that's how I started smoking. I was about 14, 15.
I started smoking at 16. And do you know why I started smoking? Because I couldn't understand addiction. I wanted to understand how people could be addicted to cigarettes. And I found out to my peril. Like I'm 54 and I'm still addicted to nicotine, even though this is nowhere near as harmful. I'm still addicted to it. I'm just a bit confused now. There's someone said on here, Jacqueline Hagata, the highest bid is 250 quid so far. I haven't seen that anywhere. Where's this? Or is that what you're saying? Is that Jack from Pigs in the Wood?
That's Jack from the Sanctuary, yeah.
Oh, so who's bid 250 quid there? Oh,
it'd be great. It'd be great if it is.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. I'm certainly not going to bid myself now because that's like a year's wages for me.
Yeah, Rachel's saying you could buy individual cigarettes. I remember that as a kid. You could.
The ice cream man still sells single cigarettes. The ice cream man.
Park Drive. You could get in with either a filter or not, and they came in 5. So I remember that.
And do you know another thing? And I've actually found a magazine is they used to put coupons in cigarettes. So it might be 5 points or 10 points. So like if you sort of collected enough of these, you could get yourself a nice new electric razor, but you won't be able to shave because you'll have died of cancer by the time you've saved enough tokens to friggin'
like Green Shield stamps.
Yeah, Green Shield stamps.
Yeah, Green
yeah,
Shield
I
stamps.
remember them.
But the cigarettes, because I remember things like what were the main cigarettes in those days? Embassy was a big one, wasn't it, back then?
JPS, they called them the lung bleeders.
Silk cut. I used to smoke. My grandma used to smoke Woodbines.
JPS, don't we, Ronnie?
Yeah.
Oh, apparently Leon's bid 250.
Wow.
I did scroll up because I didn't want to be ignorant and not listen to you, Ronnie. I know you won't take it like that, but I was trying to find the bid and I couldn't. You wouldn't
be the only one not listening to me.
Mate, no, I love listening to you. I love listening to Roger. I love listening to both of you because you're a big inspiration, guys. And the things you managed to do in the period that you were active were amazing. Were absolutely amazing. And you did sort of get it the rough end of the stick because, like I said, prisons weren't nowhere near like they are now. I know you, Ronnie, you think they're worse, but I don't think they are. You know, you got TVs, they're a lot cleaner.
I think it depends. I think in terms of like the facilities are a lot better because I think they phased out a load of those, old-fashioned prisons where you had the piss pot, the piss bucket, and all that kind of thing. The porridge type prison. I think a lot of them are gone. Probably turned into hotels now, like Oxford. So in that sense, it's better. But in terms of like the kind of the sort of atmosphere in there, when I've watched programs on the telly, it seems a lot more chaotic now.
But don't forget, mate. Don't forget, right? When these documentary films are made in prison, right? They cut out all the boring bits when nothing happens for like 6 months of the year, and then they throw in a 3-second fight, and then they throw in another 3-second fight. So it looks to us as a viewer like, oh, there's a fight every 3 seconds in that place, and it's not. It's a very twisted view when it comes to documentary making. The editing room is a really good storyteller.
That might well be true. I don't think I shall endeavour to find out though what it's like now, if I can avoid it.
Well, that's I think you've done your share of porridge, mate. You both have. It might be my turn. We'll see what happens further along the line. What about schools? I mean, schools. We still had at that time, up until I left school in '83 at age 15. We still had corporal punishment, which was the strap, the slipper. I mean, that's the thing that ruined my education because on the very first day of school, and I was a small guy, I was tiny. I didn't sprout up till I was 14 years old, and then I got some height on me. But my first day in school, I was sat in the classroom. This guy, Andy Williamson, he had a knotted shoelace, and he went up to this girl and he whipped her arm with it and cut her arm, right? Everybody was in that classroom, 4 of us, got tucked to the headmistress's office, and the headmistress, and I remember this clear as day, she said to me, were you involved in this? I said, no, miss. She went, were you there? I went, yes, I was there. She went, so you were involved in this? And I said, no, I wasn't involved. You're lying to me. Hold your hands out. The very first day, I got an adult woman with a big leather strap with a handle on it and whacked my hands twice. Well, that was it. I rebelled for the rest of that school. I never got an education through the whole lot. It put me right off. And when people say, oh, yeah, we're not hard on these kids anymore, we should bring this back. It doesn't do anything. It didn't stop kids pissing about. It didn't stop. It's like capital punishment, hanging. It doesn't stop crime happening. So what's the point? It might save us a bit of money on putting a prisoner in prison for life. But this whole violence to stop violence or misbehaviour is just totally wrong, and it ruined my education.
That story is really like what happened to me because I was lined up to have the cane because we had a lesson in the library and we were all around these big tables in the library, and some kids found on my table, as it were, they found this book by this, exercise book, and there's this kid called Harrison, and they wrote Harrison is a bastard all over it, and the headmaster was also called Harrison, and so they were caught, and then everybody on the table were assumed to be guilty, and so we're all lined up to have the cane, but the headmaster used to jump off a table to cane people, to give them
to get more height.
Yeah, that's right. And what he did was, just before I was due to go in, he broke his cane on the other guy's finger, and so I never got the cane because of that. And I had to keep my head down for weeks, thinking that he was going to remember that he hadn't caned me,
and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not a deterrent. I mean, once I'd had the mystique of the strap taken away from me and realised it's not that bad after all, apart from the games teacher, Mr. Monday. No, that he did it on the ass, and that hurt. That hurt like fuck. I was dancing up the corridor after that one. I'll tell you that much. But it didn't. It just took the mystique away from it. It wasn't a threat anymore. So it was like, right, Shepherd, again, what are you playing at? Right, you want detention or you want the strap? Strap, please. Smack. Thank you. See you later.
we had a terrible games master or PE master called Mr. Lang, and everyone hated him. And I was only really little, and there was these things that you had to jump over, like a thing called a buck and a thing called a box, to vault over these things.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't do it properly. So he grabbed hold of me one day and slapped me around the leg, like, really hard. And he had a great big ring on his finger, and it made this really, really kind of like cut, a sort of wheel on my leg, you know what I mean, where he'd hit me. But anyway, what happened was one day he was involved in a really bad motor accident, and he was all smashed up and everything. And at the assembly in the morning, the headmaster said, well, before we continue with the assembly, I've got some very, very sad news to say that Mr. Lang's in hospital. He's seriously injured in hospital. He was involved in a really, bad car accident and everything. And everyone cheered. All the kids cheered. He was going, this is disgraceful and all that. And everyone was going, yes. And he never come back to the school. And we had a much nicer PE master after that. But I got the cane once. What we did was, there was a load of us. I went to a Catholic school, and it was priests and that. And they were like real perverted in a sense, is quite often seems to be quite often the case with priests, doesn't it? And anyway, I did geography. I was in a geography class. This was like later on when they split people up into, and like the brainy kids, did Greek. They were doing Greek, you see, and the geography class finished early, and we all come back, and we were waiting to go in our classroom, and this Greek master was teaching, and there was like a glass, in the corridor. It was like glass windows, and we were all making faces through. Pressing our faces up against to make the other kids laugh. And we heard this kind of behind us. So we looked at his headmaster, and he took us all up his office, 4 at a cane each, like up his office straight away. So they had the cane, and they even had a discipline. It wasn't usually a headmaster that gave her the cane. There was this like other priest called Father Gerard, and he was a real sadist, and he was like the discipline master. And he was the one that usually give you the cane. Bit like they were like real sickos, to be quite. Now I think back.
For Liverpool, didn't he, Ronnie?
Sorry. He played for. He went to play for. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He what?
It was a little bloke. This Father Gerard.
Stevie Gerard.
Gerard. Steve Gerard. Yeah, but no, that was his. His first name was Gerard, because they used to be we had Father Bernard was the headmaster, and there was Father Gerard and there was this Father John. Father John was the maths teacher. He used to give kids a thing called the tolly, and what the tolly was, it was the edge of the ruler, and he used to hit kids on the arse. And it always used to be the same kids, because what they did was, if you got bad marks in your homework, you got the tolly. And of course, it was always the same kids that weren't very good at maths. And he'd laugh, he'd read out, he said, now let me read out who's got the tolly today. And he'd all be licking his lips, like that. I mean, it's absolutely kinky, do you know what I mean? He said, let's see who the list is of the top. And he'd line all these kids up. It was always the same ones, poor buggers, that weren't good at maths. Get punished for not being good at maths, have the tolly. You know, and that's what it was like.
I had a maths teacher who used to hit you on the back of the head with his knuckles.
Yeah.
As I've proven, I never really got on with maths, and I think it might have been because of that. We were like terrified of it, of the guy, you know, because he would come behind you, you know, and you'd be trying to work, and if he didn't like what you were doing, he'd just whack you on the back of your head with his knuckles.
£250 to beat, guys. £250 to beat for this ticket.
We used to do things back though, because we had this English teacher. Like during like the break time, we used to play cards on the teacher's desk. You see, and like sometimes they'd get we go, oh, he's coming, like, and we kind of run to our seats and he'd come in and find the playing cards. And this English teacher used to go mad. Once he spent the whole lesson just tearing up the cards and throwing them in the bin. In a rage, you see. So what we done one day, we glued the cards to the desk. We glued them. And like he spent even longer. He was like had to tear them all off the desk. You know, the glue. And another time on the seat where he used to sit, it was like a kind of it was a laminate on this chair. It was like a laminate chair, and it had a dip in it, and there was a crack in this dip. So what we did was he pushed it up so it went up instead of down, and so the crack was opened up, right? And he came in class, he sat on the chair and he caught his arse got caught. And there was a big bang and a big scream out of him, like, because this thing closed on his arse. He was going, who did this? Who did that? Of course, no one was going to say they did it. Like, we were all pissing ourselves laughing. So we did get them back.
Does anybody remember the school pens you used to get, which were really weird? They had like a little kind of it's almost like had a flared thing, and it tapered to a real kind of tip thing. And you used to get them given to you by the school. And if
the fountain pen?
No, it was like a ballpoint pen. But if you scribbled with them, it smelt like marzipan. Nobody remember that, no?
No, I can't remember that. No.
Yeah.
No, I remember stealing magnesium ribbon from chemist labs, and we used to stick it over the bus seats and light it, and like the whole bus used to be full of smoke, but you couldn't tell it was magnesium ribbon because everyone used to smoke on the back of buses anyway. You know, but what about?
I'll be back in a minute. I've got to go and have a wee.
Okay, we're wrapping it up soon anyway, Ronaldo. So don't worry. I mean, what cars were you into? Cars, Roger? Were you a car man?
No, I didn't smoke. I'm never into cars. So, I mean, I think I was a bit of a rebel against the male things. Funny enough, because you know, going back to one of the things you know was saying about love thy neighbor and all that. Another thing that was very prevalent in those days was you know the kind of macho man type crap and all that. And I kind of rebelled against that. That's why. I think that's one of the reasons why I became a T-Rex fan, because it was the thing that the boys like Slade and the girls like T-Rex, and you were supposed to be homosexual if you like T-Rex.
I love T-Rex, but I'm not homosexual. I loved them. I thought they were great.
It was the thing. I mean, there's even a live album where Bolan goes, "Oh, do you know that me and Mickey are married?" You know, and all this kind of stuff. Because it was the thing that you know it wasn't the done thing for boys to like Bolan, and so everybody who was a boy used to go for like Sweet or Slade, and I think part of my rebellion was the fact that I thought, well, fuck that, I'll go for whatever I like. You know,
Tyke, I'm not sure whether I've got some trigger words in my. You can put words in the back engine of YouTube, and if these words pop up, like bacon dough and all that shit, it pulls your comment for referral. So I don't know whether that might be it. I'm not sure. I meant to sort it out, but I got distracted by other things like fucking life. You know what I mean? So I used the B. I could have because I used the B word. Could have been, but I've not banned any swear words on here. Bastard, you mean? It shouldn't be.
That's it.
I don't know what's going on with my YouTube, whether I'm being monitored or I'm being policed or something like that. I've no idea. My chat's adult, yeah, so it shouldn't be. And I'm sure I've not got any swear words that are banned from the chat. So just let me write bastard in the chat. Bastard. Fuck. Any other words? Twat. I know.
Arse.
YouTube don't like arse. Maybe it's because I'm the host. It might let me do that. I don't know. Has that shown up? Swearing is vegan. Swearing is vegan. Of course it is. Of course it is.
Depends what word you use, doesn't it?
Ronnie, I asked Roger about cars, but he was a gay T-Rex fan at the time. So, were you into cars?
What, you mean driving cars?
Well, just any cars, because I've got a little sort of. I used to love the TR7 and the Opel Manta and the XR3.
No, I was never into any fast cars. The first car I ever had was a Ford Popular, and it was one of these black ones, like the old, like the upright ones. That kind of, it didn't even have hydraulic brakes; it had cable brakes.
No way!
Yeah, a cable brake and
power steering.
Yeah, just with the arms, like, and it had this a big. It only had three forward gears, and a great big gear stick that wobbled about all over the place. And when you turn the lights on, the fuel gauge, you used to, if you wanted more, if you were running short of fuel, you turn the lights on, and the fuel gauge would go up a bit.
Wow!
Well, you could kid yourself, like.
I used to run out of petrol quite a lot. But again, those days, I don't know relatively whether it was cheap. I think relatively it was cheap. And I used to fill my car up for £5, and it was something like 38p a litre at the time.
Cars were more expensive, though. I mean, this was like this cost 20 quid at the time. I mean, I'm talking about probably 1968, and I think my dad bought me this car for 20 quid. Because he didn't want me driving his car, because when he was teaching me to drive, I crashed his car, you see. So he said, right, you're not driving me, I'm going to get you an old car, like, it don't matter if you crash. And he got me this for 20 quid. And then I got my next car after that, after I passed my test, was a Mini, and that cost £100. I mean,
I had a Mini.
Second hand, you know, these were second hand. But in those days, that was a lot of money. And relatively speaking, cars are a lot cheaper now than they used to be, because like a lot of lads in those days had motorbikes and motor scooters because they were cheaper. And you know, like some of my friends had bubble cars, for instance, because they were cheaper to buy. And what is really expensive now is the insurance for a youngster.
Yeah,
you know, lad up the road from us, he bought a car for a few £100, a couple of £100, but his insurance was £2,000.
Yeah, I've seen it higher than that. I've seen 5k bills as well.
Yeah,
it is ridiculous. But it's. Do you know where that's come from? It's come from claim society. Everybody's claiming. So if you just have a gentle bump with someone, you can guarantee there's more than one person in that car. You're looking at a 10 grand bill for whiplash for all the occupants and the extra ones they had in the boot that pop out after you sort of
you get people
popping their claim.
Because you get those people phone up and says, I'm phoning you about the accident that you had.
Oh, I have so much fun with them.
What accident was that? And then I say to them, well, what accident was that? And they go, well, the accident you had. And I said, well, tell me about the accident then, because I said I'm quite old now. My memory's not very good. Can you tell me about this accident that you already know about? And then they end up putting the phone down.
You know what I do? I get them on and they said, excuse me, did you have an accident last summer? Oh, yeah, I did. And then they put you through to somebody. Could you tell us about the accident? I said, yeah, I'm driving past this zoo, and then two penguins come out on a motorbike, I swerved to avoid them and then smacked right into an elephant on a moped. And I said I smashed all my windscreen. And by the time I've got to that bit, they've hung up on the phone on me. So I'm like, I haven't told you the best bit yet. You know what I mean? But do you
remember Jasper Carrot from the 70s? Because he used to do those insurance claims, didn't he? You know, the genuine ones, you know. So people used to say things like, "I was driving along when a tree jumped out in front of me." You know,
and what people say on the claim,
yeah.
I put my head out of the window to look behind me, but I hadn't wound it down.
That's like the reasons that people go to the doctor. Like I was, you know, they go with these injuries. Go, well, I was hoovering in the nude and I slipped accidentally.
Oh yeah.
Or like I sat down on the sofa in the nude, and I didn't realise somebody had put Buzz Lightyear there. I've seen the X-rays of the Buzz Lightyear that someone had up their bum. Because what they did was somehow the Buzz Lightyear went up there
to infinity and beyond.
And what happened was the wings opened. The wings on the Buzz Lightyear opened because there's a button or something. Like they had to go, and. I suppose it's one way of getting a buzz, isn't it? You know, but yeah. You can see there's X-rays of all these things that people have accidentally sat on in the nude.
Who lives in a head like that? There's only Ronnie can live in a head like that. I would be scared to be in your mind at this moment in time. Oh my god! And do you know something as well? You've just reminded me of something. You know when we used to have like cones down the road. Do you remember how they used to light them?
The cones, the paraffin. They had paraffin.
The paraffin lamps. It was
paraffin lamp.
A square box with a paraffin wicking.
That's it. They did. Yeah.
I used to have them all over my bedroom. All over my bedroom.
People used to nick them. People nick the cone. We've got some cones.
The yellow ones with the hook on it. You mean?
Like a lantern box, like a lantern box.
I mean, they're great, and they'd be great lights. You know, they're like real kind of. Great now to have around your place, wouldn't they? They're like real, like retro type things, you know, those.
I bet there's a warehouse somewhere that's absolutely stacked full of them that people have forgotten about.
They could sell them, couldn't they?
What about, let's have a look. We've gone through a thing. What about toys? What about the toys? We've seen some of the things. I had an Evel Knievel, and you wound it up like that. The motorbike.
Did a wheelie and all that, yeah.
And it did a wheelie and all that. And I was looking on eBay a little while back, and some of these Evel Knievel models and bikes, and particular ones from particular years, they were thousands now. It's honestly, and I found out that an eagle-eyed, when was it? It was a 1975 Action Man with eagle eyes or something like that, and the rubber grippy hands. It was worth about 20 grand. It was a particular one that was worth about 20 grand, and I had it. And I gave it a military burial on the spur land behind my house, right? And I buried him because he died. He died fighting the Russians during the Cold War. And I buried him. And I thought, oh my God, I've got 20 grand sitting there. And this is years later. This is recent. I went down to my mum and dad's. It must have been about 25 years ago. Went down to mum and dad's and I'm like, Mum, Dad, I'm going to go and try and dig up this Action Man. It's worth about 20 grand. And she went, oh. And I'm like, what's up? She went, go and have a look. I went out the back door. They'd ripped it all apart and there were concrete foundations. They were building houses. So my Action Man's underneath the foundation of the house.
Buried under the
20 grand is there underneath that house. Do I go with any pneumatic drill? What do I do? I've been thinking about getting tunnel. Oh my God! So yeah,
a
lot of those toys now. A lot of stuff from the 70s and 80s is worth a shitload of money, and because it's so breakable, it was so breakable, so they didn't survive. So they're rare now.
Yeah, some of the old records are really, you know, if you get this thing called Record Collector. Which I used to collect that. It's like a magazine. So some of the old records are worth thousands now. You know, first pressings and stuff. You know,
I've got a Dickies one there, Banana Song, the Dickies on yellow vinyl.
I got that one there. That's called Desdemona by John's Children, and one of their one of their singles is worth 4,000 quid. You know,
and you haven't got it. Have you
I
got
haven't
it?
got that. I haven't got that one, but this one's quite rare. I think I got a few. I've got a few rare things. I wanted to ask people if they know what this is. Do they know what that is? People in the chat, do you know what that is?
What is that, people? Anybody know what that is? It's not some sort of device to stop Roger from having children or anything like that, I don't think.
Yeah, you insert it in your.
You put that over your willy, Roger. The hole's about the right size.
You're a very bad man, you are, Ronnie. Lee. No wonder they put you in prison so many fucking times.
Nobody over 40 is allowed to answer that question. Only the under 40 is allowed to answer that question. What was it for? Well, oh my God, yeah, it's been a great chat, guys. It's really been enjoyable. It really has. I'm going to put in no idea, Terry Reagan says. So we've got a no idea. Someone's got it. Someone's got it. Vegan something, but they're 31.
Yeah, there we are. Deb's got it, hasn't she? That's it.
It goes in the centre of the record,
I think it's
correct.
Centre of the record, yeah.
So there's my email for Leon if he's still on. Unless you've already sorted something out with Jack from Pigs in the Wood. You can contact Jack direct. But it looks like, guys, Generous Leon at 250 quid has got the VIP tickets. So, Leon, are you still on? If you are, please let me know. But I would like to go and film your day for you as well if you let me know when you're going down. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now because any time now I'm going to have a load of people coming in my house, my family. They're going to start sticking the telly on, putting the toaster in the toaster. We're not putting toaster in, put bread in the toaster, don't you? Put bread in the toaster. But it's been great. It's been great. It's been a real good laugh with you two guys and I've had a really good, interesting conversation, and I've enjoyed it, guys. And we'll have to do this again. We'll definitely have to do this again. Let's have a look. What's Michelle saying? I don't know when I'm over 40. Oh, Michelle, you obviously were a record collector. You only record collectors knew what they were for, because sometimes couldn't you buy records without the centres in? Or some of the
they went on a jukebox.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they were. Right, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Next time I'll show everybody the animal rights record collection that I've got, like this one.
Oh, I remember Steve Davis. He was a good friend of mine, Steve.
Yeah,
I think he went to. I think he went
picture as well. That halo picture.
I think Steve.
That's a female activist, which is really great.
Yeah. Very good. Because Steve, I think Steve went to. Steve's a musician. Steve Davis. I think he still plays some sort of music. And
he went Sensible.
Just had a cat bite me.
Oh, I used to love Captain Sensible. Yeah. I bought a jumper like his. I bought one of those like furry jumpers from his. I bought it from Affleck's Palace. I
Dennis the Menace or something, wasn't it?
It was, but this was like bright blue, fluorescent blue. This was. I looked at right side. Really didn't suit me. Really, it went with my eyes, but that was about it. What was that then about a toaster? Your family puts toast in the toaster. Explains a lot about you, Grumpy.
They like it well done, don't they?
I told you I didn't have much of an education, Race. Come on, give me some credit. But listen, guys, look, it's been a nice evening. We've raised quite a nice little bit of money for Pigs in the Wood. It would be really cool if we could get together after lockdown and go and visit Pigs in the Wood. That would be a nice thing for us three to do. I think that would make a really nice sort of venture for us. Try and get you two there. You'd have to pay in, not climb over the fence, not get blacked up or put dark clothes on and break and enter. Yeah, no, we've got to go legitimately.
I've got an idea, for after lockdown. I mean, Pigs in the Wood seem to kind of do this anyway with the events they put on there. But we've got this vegan camp out, and we're coming up, where you've got to pay 60 quid to go to this thing. It's in a highly dubious venue that's been hired from some people that are to do with farming, and a lot of it's animal farming.
Yeah.
But my idea for let's have some grassroots, more local campouts, and if they could be held at animal sanctuaries, because a lot of animal sanctuaries have got room, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then the people that go to the campout, they give the money.
People should
the
just
animal,
break into the place.
Give the money to the animal sanctuary. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think some people probably have already tried to. But do you know what I mean? And I think that you should do that. That if sanctuaries were to host these like local grassroots campouts, and people go there, and pay money to the sanctuary. Well, it don't have to be 60 quid, obviously, but they give money to the sanctuary and do fundraising events at the campout for the sanctuary.
It's a great idea.
It's win-win, isn't it? It's win, and that's what we should do. We need to make these things grassroots. We need to make them more affordable for people. It's ridiculous. It's been turned into like an entrepreneurship, hasn't it? The veganism.
Well, it's like Glastonbury and all the others. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and all the others have took over. And it's now got official security. I reckon I haven't bought any tickets for Vegan Campout. I do want to attend, but I haven't bought any tickets yet. I reckon we should see if we can break in as activists. I think we should challenge ourselves to see
using our old skills.
Yes, definitely, mate. What do you think?
With a tunnel, couldn't we? A tunnel into the campout. That'd be great.
I think the best thing would be to go before they start setting up. Create a little treehouse for us and get in the treehouse and just sleep it out until it actually opens. And we're already in.
Just hide. You could hide, couldn't we? Somewhere hide.
Definitely.
That'll be good. Who's that comedian who's part human, part troll? Long hair. Do you know what I mean? Kind of.
Not Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey. Yeah, he used to be a sab, right? But he's got this brilliant story about Glastonbury. When people used to break into Glastonbury, they started putting these kind of walls up and everything. And so one year they built a tunnel for everybody to get in. And it came out in a one-man tent, and he said there was a guy there, kind of on the weed, kind of watching this one person come out of one man, and then somebody else came out, and he goes, "Oh, that's not right, man. That's not right."
Oh yeah, I mean it's a little bit different tunneling into somewhere than tunneling out of somewhere, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, but it'd be a good way to kind of but I think the more local ones, because the other thing about the vegan camp, you get people fly there from all over the world. Well, what's that doing to the environment? No.
Didn't you give a talk at one of those?
I gave a talk, but I gave a talk because I got in free because I give a talk, didn't I? It was free. So I thought, well, I'll go and give a talk.
You're such a hypocrite, Ronnie. You're such a hypocrite, man.
And try and get what it was about. Get active,
Hold on a minute, Ronnie. Right, yellow card, mate. Right, okay. So what you're saying is, Ronnie, right? Because you got in free because you give a talk, that was fine. But now all of a sudden you've got to pay. It's all wrong. It's commercialised. We shouldn't be having it. Yeah, you two-faced bastard.
If I can go there and give a talk to all these non-active vegans, get them active, then way up. Well, is it? And it's free. Well, maybe, I will.
You were on with a year when Ingrid Newkirk was there as well, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she was there.
You're a very bad man, you are.
I spoke to Ingrid Newkirk actually.
Oh, did you deserve to be in prison, you
Ronnie? You should be, mate.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, it is a lot of money, isn't it? And if we could localise these things like we need to do with a lot of things, really, and make it more grassroots, then.
Grumpy, would you rather go to Vegan Campout with Roger or Ronnie? Right. Race Lever is trying to find out, right, who I prefer out of Roger and Ronnie, right? Man up and answer, right? For a start, right, there's no such thing as man up. That is absolute bullshit, so I will not succumb to that. But if I've got to choose between Ronnie and Roger, right, I'm not going to pick any. I'd rather have none than have to pick... Because they're both criminals, right? They've both been to prison. They're both dubious. They're both dodgy. They're both ducking and divers. Yeah, fine young criminals. So no, I'm not going to answer that at all.
Well, this one will sway you, Danny, because when I was in the cell with Ronnie, which was a long time, because we used to kind of bribe bribe the people to get back in the same cell every time we went to the court and everything. Ronnie had this theory that if you farted loudly, it didn't smell. So maybe that would sway your decision.
But the thing is, I wouldn't go in a tent. See, I'm too old. I won't camp. I won't camp now.
Right, I've muted him. Roger, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. Right, race lever. I prefer Roger over Ronnie straight away. So anyway, let's hope he didn't hear that. So Ronnie, we were saying,
I did hear it. I'm been muted, not made deaf. You need to have a button that makes the person deaf, and then that would work, wouldn't it?
It's called loud music, mate.
Yeah. No, but when I gave the talk there, when Louise and I went, because she got a free ticket as well. Louise in free.
Oh, it's all coming out now, isn't it? Eh?
We didn't camp. We stayed in a cheap hotel. I wasn't going to camp. Not at my
cheap
age.
Hotel. Oh, a cheap hotel.
I stayed in a cheap hotel. I'm not going to camp.
I gave a talk at the Luxembourg Animal Rights Conference, right? And it was the year when Steve Best was on, and Melanie Joy was there as well. And everybody camped except for them wankers who went into these big flash hotels.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're young.
It's all the
enough
same with these celebrities. They go to the hotels and everybody else is camping, don't they?
We had to pay for the hotel ourselves. They didn't pay. It weren't paid for by the camp out. We had to
the hotel wasn't in Panama, was it, Ronnie?
And then we flew. Yeah, we flew and landed on
a private helicopter.
Yeah. That's how we done it. Yeah, on a yacht. We went on the luxury yacht first of all. And
Roger and Ronnie would be a great double act at any camp out. Might even get them in free to the big one. Oh, right.
Would we agree, though? Because Roger wouldn't go to...
What about me? What about me? Am I just a spare part in all this?
We'll insist that you come as well.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Tree vegan, that's a bit... There's three people on this stream, Tree Vegan. I mean, my God. I mean, I even like some of your videos that I shouldn't really do. Oh my God!
Well, you can't be people in double act, though, can you, Danny?
Hey, well, I can be a manager. I can be a manager. Like Borat. Right. Where you wrestle naked and all that. You remember watching the Borat films where he wrestled naked with his manager? We can do all that stuff. You know what I mean? Play Matt Bolan records.
Actually.
Yeah, that's right. He sat on the bloke's face.
Yes, he did. He's horrible.
But apparently, he had a bit of cling film over his arse that you couldn't see. Because in the film, it looks like it's
Ronnie. How do you know this shit?
Because I never saw the film, but I saw the film about how the film was made.
It was made, yeah.
And they said, "Well, that looks horrible."
The guy wasn't Buzz Lightyear, was he, Ronnie?
Oh, don't bring Buzz Lightyear up again. He'll start vibrating. Right, well, listen, it really is time to do one now before we get to any more anal insertion stories. So,
yes, we've been on far too long.
We've been on far too long, but it's been
Ronnie's
absolutely
talking about
brilliant.
His bum now, so.
But I've loved having you both on. It's been absolutely brilliant. Everybody who's joined the chat, you've been great also. So I'm going to end this stream here. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for the donations. I know some people have donated and not spoke up about it. Thank you to you guys. Well done, Leon, for buying those tickets for 250 quid. Please get in contact if you don't know how to sort it out, unless Jackie's sorted it out for you. But save the animals, save the planet, save yourself. Go vegan, guys.
Yay, go vegan.
People, thanks very much for turning up.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.